Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Charles Salbox and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Now, as you've already seen from the thumbnail, we are going to be touching on the pivot. Now, the pivot in boxing is a fundamental footwork move, and I'm going to show you the purpose, some of the problems associated with the move, the technique within some drills, and also some alternatives and some variations you can use in the gym preparing for sparring and training. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. Now guys, right off the bat, the pivot is a move that will help you change direction. It's going to allow you to establish an angle on your opponent if you perform the pivot. Whenever you're in the ring, you have more translational movement, so that's forwards, backwards, left and right. But if you want to go from facing one direction to another, the pivot is going to help you perform that move. Now, second to that, it's going to help you track your opponent. If your opponent is moving around the ring, you can just change the angle that you're facing and keep up with them. Now, another reason why you might want to use the pivot is to evade attacks. So a defensive move, evasion. So you might have an aggressive opponent that comes at you with attacks. You can use the pivot to get out of the way. Now guys, one of the frequent problems that I see boxers committing when they perform the move of the pivot is to lean into the pivot leg. If I do this from the side, in the boxing stance, they lean into this and then perform the pivot. They are approaching their opponent, so it's easy for their opponent to strike them in this situation where they are going to perform a move that allows them to move through this particular angle. They will have no footing. What the boxer chooses to do is to lean into the leg where he's going to be stable and then move so that he has better balance. Now, the idea that you are going to have to come to terms with the pivot is that whilst performing the pivot, you are unbalanced. Yes, you are unbalanced throughout the duration of time that you are moving through the angle. So when you are in this position, it's only until you get to this position that you regain your balance. But throughout the angle that you move, you are unbalanced. That is the reason why boxers tend to lean forward. Now, another problem, or should I say offense or violation, that I see boxers committing whilst performing the pivot is to use their hands to generate the torque for the pivot rather than the back foot. So they use their hands to get around, and once they finish the pivot, their hands are not in the best defensive position, and then that leaves them susceptible to their opponent's attacks. Now, another frequent problem is overturning. So where I want to perform a 90-degree pivot, boxers tend to go over and then leave themselves in a position where they're not facing their opponent. And again, they're susceptible to the attacks from their opponent. So the ability to turn correctly through the angle that you want to is the problem that boxers find hard. So guys, I'm going to take you now through the basic mechanics of pivoting. Let's start with the footwork. Now, obviously there's going to be things that we do with our boxing stance, so our hands, our torso, weight distribution, but let's just start with what we are doing with our feet. So in this position, we have our boxing stance and we have a 60-40 weight distribution, so more weight on the back. Now what we want to do is two movements. So the first movement is turning the pivot foot. So that's our lead foot. Now what we do, we bring our heel out to the side, that's one, and then we push with the back foot and we move through the angle, but do not lean forward. So we take that angle and we catch our weight at the back foot, and we should be in that 60-40 distribution. So again, I'll do this so that you can see. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We do not want to lean forward to gain better balance, i.e. to bring our center of mass over our standing foot and then move through, because obviously we will become susceptible to opponent's attacks because we are moving towards the opponent. Trust in your back foot to catch your weight when you get to this point. But keep your weight in that 60-40 weight distribution whilst you're moving. Now, that is basically what you want to be doing for your feet. And I would say a good balance drill for your rear foot, because you can see that your rear foot has to actually catch your weight in this position. A good balance drill for that is the standing stalk drill. So what you're doing, you raise your knee, and what you want to do is lift your heel up off the floor and remain balanced on your rear foot. Okay, just from the side so you can see my heel up. And this is often what sprinters do as well, because you know, when you're sprinting, your heel cannot touch the floor during that, you know, maybe 10 seconds that Usain Bolt is running 100 meters. You don't have enough time to plant your heel in the floor. So obviously for boxers, where the back foot is up, what we want to do is make sure that we can remain balanced in that position. And this also adds strength to the rear foot, because obviously to slow yourself down once you're doing the pivot and to keep yourself stable requires some strength. Now, in order to track our opponent, which is one of the second purposes of the pivot, we need to use our lead hand. Now, many of you play Call of Duty, I know, because you're boxers, and you know, when you're not in the gym, Call of Duty, Battlefield, whatever it may be.
No, 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 hell no.
So what I want you to do is understand that your lead hand acts as your iron sight, okay? Some of you that do not play computer games, then your lead hand is like the aim sight that you have on a gun, okay? Now what you are doing to track your opponent, when you move through the first movement of the pivot, so that's to create the pivot point there, you begin to track your opponent's movement, okay? And then when you push, boom, okay? So the first thing that comes into the pivot position is actually your lead hand and your lead foot. What you are going to do is allow your hand to determine what angle you move through. And your hand can easily turn by 90 degrees. If your hand turns by 90 degrees, your eyes follow your hand, your head follows your eyes, your body follows your head, and your rear foot catches the weight in that position that you want to turn by 90 degrees. So this usage of the lead hand will ensure that you're able to track your opponent, and it will prevent you from overturning. So here, 1, 2, 1, 2. So 1, 2. My lead hand will acquire that frontal position before my rear foot touches the floor. 1, 2, okay? And you can see my boxing stance with my feet. I'm well balanced and I've tracked my opponent through the correct angle. So obviously the balance drill and using your lead hand are the things that you can do to help you move through the pivot angle correctly. Now, throughout the move of the pivot that I've been performing, it's simply been to turn through an angle or to even establish an angle. Now, obviously, I did say the purpose of, performing the pivot might be to evade attacks. So when you want to evade attacks, it's no longer that you are concerned with the angle, more so you are concerned with getting your head out of the way and moving through that angle as quickly as possible. So when an attack is coming, the priority is to get your head out of the way, move your body out of the way. Evasion is the primary concern. Bring our shoulder across our chin, and then we push, obviously footwork as normal throughout the pivot, but the chin is covered by our shoulder. So we've got our position here, shoulder comes up, covers our chin, and then we push with the back foot after we rotate. There, okay? You can see that obviously we are preserving that 60-40 weight distribution, even more so making it 70-30, because we retract and we push, okay? Now, an alternative to this is the check step, okay? What we can do is perform for the evasion. To get out of the way as quickly as possible, we take our lead foot, rotate it and step whilst we push with our back foot. And then we turn our head as we move backwards. So there, okay? And you can see what I've done now. I've cleared the center line. Where my foot is still on the center line for evasion, you can see my lead foot is still on the center line. What I'm able to do is clear the center line with the check step. So there. So that was the alternative for the evasion. I'm going to give you some variations for the pivot. So obviously we've been pivoting this way. Now I'm going to show you the pivot the other direction. There, there. I still create the pivot point on my lead foot, and then what I'm doing, I'm lifting my heel, and then I simply push, use my lead hand to track where I want to go, and then I turn through the pivot. Now, the other variations involve a step, side steps, and then my opponent attacks at this point. I don't have time, so I slip and then I pivot. And then another variation is where I take a step on the inside, maybe to evade the southpaw jab. There. And then I push on my back foot 180 degrees. And that, my friend, concludes the video on how to pivot. I've given you the purpose, shown you some of the problems associated with the move, also giving you a rundown on the complete technique with the footwork, using the hands to track your opponent, and then also making sure that you do not overturn. And I've also given you some variations and some alternatives that you can use in sparring. Now, if you've enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, share the video to anyone you feel may benefit from the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace.